So one of the things I've found, I've discovered this about myself, but I think it's kind of a common thing, is that my circle of my areas of interest like vastly outstrip my areas of influence. It's one of those kind of situations where like I find myself so preoccupied. Like and this is going to be a situation where probably you experience the same thing, where the things you're interested in are so much bigger than the areas of influence in your life. And so, I mean, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it's good to be interested in a lot of things. God made us curious. God made us inquisitive. God made us want to know stuff. And so to have a level of interest, good. Until it becomes not good, right? Until we become so distracted by our circle of interest that we don't pay attention to our circle of influence. It's one of those kind of situations where we can realize that here's a person who I'm so interested in the state of global politics that I don't participate in my local politics, right? Or that kind of the person who is always complaining about like the state of the family in the modern world, but you neglect your own family and your world. Or even just those people, maybe some of us who would say, man, look around the world, it looks like the world's going to hell in a handbasket, that kind of a thing. But you don't stop to ask the question, but am I going to hell? We can be so concerned about the state of the world that I neglect the state of my soul. And I think that when we get to that place, things become dangerous. So I think that's, the guy, he doesn't even say who it is, but in the gospel today, said someone asks Jesus, Lord, will many or only a few be saved? And it's one of those questions that's a good question. But I think in some ways it can be an abstraction, right? Because I just want to know numbers. Like, tell me, like, what are the odds when it comes to out there, how many people will be saved? It can be given an abstraction, but also can become a distraction. And the distraction is, if I'm more concerned with how others are living, will many or only a few be saved? I can make it about someone else. Because if it's about others, again, others are an abstraction. If it's about others are a distraction. And I love this because Jesus, I mean, here's the Lord who knows us really, really well. And what does he do? He basically cuts through that area of interest and goes right to the area of influence. When there's this temptation to have an abstraction and have a distraction, Jesus makes it incredibly personal and makes it incredibly practical. Because his answer is not a number. His answer is, okay, here's what you need to do. The word he says is, okay, basically, strive. He doesn't tell us a number, but he tells us what to do. He says strive. In fact, the Greek word for strive is imperative. So Jesus says, you want to have an abstract number because you're really interested in, will many or only a few be saved? Jesus says, you strive. That's his answer. Will many or only a few be saved? You strive. Because you're going to have to fight for it. I think that's really interesting. I think we're going to talk about this. What is it to actually strive after the Lord? Because Jesus even says, for many will attempt to enter heaven, but won't be strong enough. And one of the things I want to highlight is we'll say this, 2 truths and 2 lies. There are 2 truths about striving. There's 2 truths and 2 lies. And the first thing I think Jesus highlights is that no one, including me and including you, just automatically gets heaven. No one just automatically gets heaven, which is a big temptation. I mean, I know that doing funerals, the temptation is to canonize the person. I don't know if you guys heard this. There's kind of this old joke that talks about how there's these 2 gangsters and they're brothers and really bad guys. And at one point, one of them, Tommy dies, and his brother goes to the priest and says, Father, I'm going to give you, I know you have a lot of bills in this church right now. I know you have a lot of debt in this church right now. I'm going to make a massive donation to your church as long as at my brother Tommy's funeral, you say the words, Tommy was a saint. You need to say those words, Tommy was a saint at his funeral, and I'll give you the money. If you don't, I'm not going to give you the money. So the priest is like, I don't know what to do. He gets up, and during the homily, he's like, okay. He says, Tommy was a crook. Tommy was a liar. He cheated people out of money. He hurt people. He destroyed people's lives. He was an awful human being. But compared to his brother, Tommy was a saint. That's okay. And whenever you tell the joke, it's bad. But the idea, the temptation, you guys, thank you for humoring me. But the temptation, of course, in this whole situation is, in a funeral, is just to say, they're in heaven right now. without any evidence. Again, I'm not making any judgments about, but just to declare that someone is in heaven without any evidence that they ever strived after heaven is kind of premature. Because you remember, the first truth, we don't automatically get heaven. Just like we don't, to think that we automatically get to heaven is pretty remarkable. I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. I think about the Olympics and a couple of different Olympic sports, Olympic events. They have like the luge. For the luge, what do? You lie down and go down this ice chute. For curling, you simply sweep the ice. And I think about both those events, both those sports at the Olympics, and I think, man, I can't even lie down at the Olympic level. I can't even sweep at the Olympic level. And what gives me the idea or the impression that if I can't even just automatically go to the Olympics for lying down or the Olympics for sweeping, what makes me think I would just automatically get heaven without striving after heaven? Even those people, they say, but Lord, we ate and drank with you. Okay, but you didn't strive. You didn't strive after heaven. At the same time, so we know the number one, first truth, I don't automatically get heaven. The second truth is, even though we don't automatically get heaven, we have to strive after heaven, we can't earn heaven. This is the second truth. No one can earn heaven. That we do not work our way to heaven. That is something that is impossible to do, because salvation is a gift, like the grace of God. Salvation is a gift. It's unearned. It's completely undeserved. That we only have access to the Father because of what Jesus has done for us and his outpouring of his Holy Spirit. So these two truths are very, very important. One, we do not automatically get heaven. Secondly, you can't work for heaven. You can't earn heaven. At the same time, as a gift, it's a gift we have to use. I think about this a lot because imagine you had parents who you wanted to play the guitar. And so at some point they say, okay, here's the gift of a guitar. And not only here's the gift of a guitar, we're also going to pay for whatever lessons you need. We're also going to pay for any repairs you will ever need in the life of this guitar and the life of you. And say, great, you have this gift, but there is a massive difference between having a guitar and being able to play the guitar, having access to lessons and actually going to the lessons. There's a difference between having access to a repair shop and going to the repair shop when things are broken. Think about this. You have the guitar, here's the gift. I just don't show up for lessons. Or I do show up for lessons and do what I did when I was a kid for the piano and just not practice in between lessons. Like that's something that people could do. Or the guitar was doing fine and then the neck broke or then one of the strings broke and I just don't bother to take it in. There's a massive difference between having this completely undeserved, unearned, free gift and actually using this completely unearned and undeserved and free gift. And that's how so many of us can live, right? Because we've been given the gift of salvation by Jesus Christ. At some point, most of us have been baptized. So here we are as God's sons and daughters, and yet we might not live like that. We have access to lessons, like we can come to Mass, but we just absent ourselves from Mass. Or maybe we go to Mass, but we don't actually pray in between lessons. We don't pray between Mass. Or when we fall down, when our hearts get broken, when the relationship with the Lord gets broken, and He just simply says, the price has been paid, come back to me in confession. Maybe later. Salvation is a free gift that we can't earn. Heaven is a free gift that we can't earn, but we have to choose it. So we don't automatically go to heaven. You can't earn heaven, but we have to choose heaven, or else we don't get heaven. We have to strive, as Jesus says. That leads us to the two lies. And the first lie about needing to strive is, it's kind of a common thing that we think these days, is discomfort is dangerous. That discomfort is dangerous. I'd gotten an email not too long ago from a young woman who was very concerned. She'd heard about this thing called Exodus 90. Exodus 90 was started a bunch of years ago by some guys who were in the seminary. And now some of them are priests, some discerned out, and they're married men and some single men. But they recognized there was something in their lives. They said, our lives are so cluttered in this modern world. Our lives are so busy in fullness modern world that we don't really think that we're actually striving after the Lord. And so they said, we're going to do this thing for 90 days. We're going to have some brotherhood, right? So they're going to meet at least once a week with however many there were of them. And then they're going to have these certain disciplines. So this woman had emailed me and said she has a friend who was thinking about Exodus 90, and she said it seemed a little too rigorous. It seemed a little too extreme because there's actually a number of disciplines. Here's the disciplines for Exodus 90. You have to take short, cold showers. That's one. You have to practice regular, intense exercise at least 3 times a week. You have to get at least 7 hours, recommended 8 hours of sleep per night. But then here's some of the things you have to not do, right? You have to abstain from alcohol for the 90 days. You have to abstain from sweets or dessert, from soda, from eating between meals. On Wednesdays and Fridays, you would fast, so no meat, and then only 1 large meal with 2 smaller meals. They ask that you don't watch TV, movies, or sports. They ask that you not play any video games, and that when you use your computer, you can only use your computer for work or for school or for like essential things like paying bills, that kind of situation. And so this woman, who was very genuine, just very, very inquisitive about this whole thing, she said that seems so extreme. And I thought about this, wait a second. So for 90 days, just again, only 3 months, it's not like this is how you're gonna live the rest of your life, but for 3 months, you're not gonna snack between meals. That seems kind of smart, actually. For 90 days, you're going to try to get a full night's sleep every night. It doesn't seem too extreme. That you're gonna try to exercise at least 3 times a week, again, doesn't seem very extreme. That you're not gonna drink alcohol for 90 days. That's not extreme. That you're not gonna eat sweets or soda for 90 days, that doesn't seem extreme or overly rigorous. And well, he's going through all the list of things. You're not gonna play video games for 90 days or have excessive use of TV or movies or sports. That I was thinking about this and realized that that's kind of how most of the world actually lives. That most of the world, they don't have access to constant snacks. Most of the world, I guess we do have access to the internet now, but you think about this, this is how almost all of humanity has lived for almost all of human history. But for us, that seems extreme. For us, that seems rigorous. Think about this, for tens of thousands of years, the default state for human beings was struggle. For tens of thousands of years, the default for human beings was discomfort. I'd say as human beings, we're designed for struggle. As human beings, we're created to strive. As human beings, we're often our best in battle. But for the last 100 years or so, what's happened is that we have been so oriented towards comfort. Because of that, discomfort seems odd. Discomfort seems dangerous. To look different would seem dangerous. And yet, unless we're willing to strive, unless we're willing to engage in battle, unless we're willing to really actually struggle, we're going to be on that wide road that Jesus talks about that doesn't lead to heaven. In fact, we get so used to like how everyone lives. Most Americans live in debt. And there's this guy named Dave Ramsey, who I always invoke his name. But Dave Ramsey talks about this. He says, yeah, if you live like everyone else, you're gonna be just like everyone else. But if you want to get out of debt, what you're gonna have to do is, he uses this phrase, he says, you're gonna have to live with gazelle-like intensity. And the idea of the gazelle is, if a lion's chasing you down, you can't just meander your way through the savannah. Like if it's cheetahs running after you, you can't just kind of jog away. You have to have this gazelle-like intensity. If you're gonna, if the debt is coming after you, it says you run away from that debt, you attack that debt with gazelle-like intensity. And so he even says that might mean, what people call it on his show, he said that might mean that for the next 2 years, you live off of rice and beans and rice. That you live differently. You're striving. Why? Because there's some battles that are worth fighting. There are some things that are worth fighting for. I mean, think about an Olympic athlete who have to get to bed on time and they don't snack and they get this amount of exercise and they do these amounts of things. They don't drink alcohol. All these things. Why? Because there's some things worth fighting for. So if paying off your debt is something worth fighting for, if going to the Olympics is something worth fighting for, question, is heaven worth fighting for? Jesus seems to think so. You know, when Jesus says that word, he says, you strive. The word Jesus uses for the word strive is a word that can be translated into English, agonize. It's actually the same root of what is described, what Jesus experienced in the garden, in his passion. When he's going through his agony, that's the same word that Jesus says when you're going for heaven, agonize for heaven, strive for heaven, just in the exact same way that he agonized during his passion. But for us, we have to ask the question, is heaven worth fighting for? And if it is, where am I fighting? If it is, how am I fighting? At the same time, that third That first truth, that we don't automatically get heaven. The second truth, we can't earn heaven, can't work our way to heaven. The first lie is that discomfort is dangerous, but the other lie is that harder is holier, or harder equals holier. Because just because something's difficult doesn't mean that it's good for us. The difficulty is not the point. In fact, we can say it like this: the narrow gate that Jesus talks about, the narrow gate is not the point. What's beyond the narrow gate, that's the point, right? The whole point is not how difficult the road is. The whole point is where that road leads to. I mean, think about this. What does Jesus say to those who are outside, who are knocking on the door, saying, let us in? He says to them, I don't know where you're from. In another gospel, Jesus says, I don't know you. What does that mean? That means basically, I don't have a relationship with you. So all of the fighting, all of the struggling, all the striving, all the agonizing is oriented towards what? It's oriented towards knowing him. It's all oriented towards becoming like him. It's all oriented towards doing what he did, which is doing the Father's will, which is so key. We're going to strive, absolutely. We're going to agonize, yes. We're going to battle and fight for what? It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. But it's supposed to lead to a relationship. The difficulty isn't the point. The narrow road is not the point. What the narrow road leads to, that's the point. And that's why in the second reading today from the letter to the Hebrews, it's so good, where he says at the time, because here's the author to the Hebrews, he's writing to a group of people who know what it's like to live in pain. They know what it's like. They all know what it's like to struggle. They know what it's like to suffer. They've been persecuted. And they know that it stinks. And so the author says, at the time, all discipline seems a cause not for joy, but for pain. Definitely true. Yet later, it brings the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who are trained by it. Now that word righteousness, the fruit of the difficulty, right? The fruit of the training is righteousness. That word righteousness simply literally means right relationship. That the fruit of the discipline is now I have a right relationship with my God himself. And that's one of the things is we realize that all of the disciplines, all the asceticisms of the Exodus 90 or any striving after the Lord should be leading and should be training in trust. I mean, think about this. Anytime you and I take time aside and say, I'm going to pray now instead of doing anything else, we're being trained in trust. That, okay, I'm not doing anything but talking to the Lord. And I trust that he hears me. And I trust that he wants me here. And I trust that he's present as I am present. That every time we experience failure, that's being trained in humility. Every time we experience even our brokenness and our weakness, and we bring that brokenness, bring that weakness to the Lord, we're growing in friendship. I mean, when we let the Lord love us as we are right now, we're actually growing in friendship with God himself. See, all of this, the taking time to pray, even in the midst of our failure, in the midst of our weakness, all that striving is meant to bring us back again and again and again into contact with God. And that contact with him brings about the fruit of the training, which is the right relationship. So here's the last thing. The last thing is, what is one way this week that you're going to strive for heaven? Like, what is one way this week that you're going to battle for heaven? What's one, and not all the things you're going to do. Here's a big checklist of things, but just what's one way that you're going to struggle for heaven? Because we know we can't earn heaven, but we must choose heaven. Especially in our world, we will never, living in this world, living like everyone else, we will not drift to heaven. Therefore, we have to fight for heaven. So, this week, where will you fight for heaven? This week, in what way will you struggle for heaven? This week, how? How will you strive after heaven?
Everything I used to live for faded slowly out of sight. Now my days just circle around you like I'm lost without a light.
All the noise just turns to silence when your memory comes through. And the world I once was chasing now feels small and shaped like you. My whole world is only you. Every thought keeps breaking through. You're so close inside my mind, but so far in real life.
I can feel you everywhere, in the things we never shared. All this love I'm going through
never reaches you. Every image feels so real now, like you're standing next to me. But the truth is in the silence, you were never meant to see. My whole world is only you. Every thought keeps breaking through. You're so close inside my mind, but so far in real life. I can feel you everywhere, in the things we never shared. All this love I'm going through never reaches you. If you felt it for a moment, would it change the way you stay?
Or would I still be the shadow that just fades away?